Ryan, what's on your radar?
On Tuesday, the Russian government announced it would be dramatically reducing its troop presence around Kyiv in order to focus its war effort in the Donbas region. U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken was quick to dismiss the announcement.
I have not seen anything that suggests that this is moving forward in an effective way because Russia, at least we've not seen signs of real seriousness.
And CNN's Jim Sciutto was quickly out with a story sourced to two top U.S. officials. He wrote, in the U.S. view, this is not a short-term adjustment to regroup, but a longer-term move as Russia comes to grips with failure to advance in the north. The official said one consequence the U.S. is concerned about is keeping the European allies unified on economic pressure and military support, as Washington expects some of them to press Ukraine to accept a peace deal to end the fighting. Wait, what? So most of the world is worried that this could accidentally trip into World War III, and Washington is worried that European countries might want a peace deal to end the war in Europe? That's Washington's fear? Now, this is more evidence that there very much is a hawkish faction inside the national security establishment that doesn't want this war to end yet and wants to continue bleeding Russia. And if Ukraine has to be bled in the process, well, that's just unfortunate. Now, if this was representative of the war hawk position within the U.S. government, would CNN's Jim Sciutto be the person they'd leak to? Well, let's see how sober-minded his reporting on the conflict has been so far. Parallels to 1939 are real, an expansionist, undeterrable leader applying ruthless military force. So far, the West has stood, but at minimal cost to its people. We still celebrate defeating the Nazis with enormous sacrifice. Will unity hold when costs exceed higher gas prices? Okay, it's a 1939 reference and talking about a country with a nuclear arsenal. But that's Twitter. Everybody loses their cool every now and then. Let's see his on-camera stuff.
In other words, making plans for having a country to run under Russian rule, replacing Ukraine's own officials. And then the added detail of not just replacing them, but killing some of them, perhaps, and rounding them up and putting them in camps. It's as if we were times transported back to 1939 when we discuss these kinds of tactics and plans. It's remarkable. Is this, though, perhaps a 1939 moment in that are we confident that Putin stops at Ukraine? We are being tested as well. This is a 1939 moment for Europe and the world. Bastards and traitors, natural self-cleaning. It evokes 1939. What did you hear there from the Russian president?
Hatred, Jim.
So it's clear that a huge chunk of the administration and of the media only wants to see this war go in the direction of more escalation, more confrontation, more quote-unquote strength.
Would a strike in Poland on supplies or anything really automatically be met with a forceful response, or simply a conversation amongst allies about how to respond?
There are reports that a Russian drone made its way into Polish airspace before going back to Ukraine and being shot down. Does a drone into Poland count?
Hi, Greg Tittynipple with the Washington Post. Ukraine has been asking for you to beat the out of these guys. When's that happening? Okay. Would be kind of a dope story.
Sir, you've made it very clear in this conflict that you do not want to see World War III. But is it possible that in expressing that so early that you were too quick to rule out direct military intervention in this war? Could Putin have been emboldened knowing that you are not going to get involved directly in this conflict?
No and no.
Okay, actually, one of those was a TikTok parody account run by Moschino Dorito, but I'm not sure which one. Might have been the one in the middle, but could have been any of them. The point is, there is another direction this war could go, and it's toward de-escalation. And if the U.S. wants to be on the right side of history here and actually cares about Ukrainian lives and Ukrainian sovereignty, they'll support their efforts to end the war.
I love that guy on TikTok pretending to be a journalist, maybe a CNN journalist, being like, "More? Why not more war?"
Come on. Were you too quick to rule out World War III?
Yeah, that number of times he references 1939. Jesus.
Calm down.
Stop doing that. Stop.
Down.
Stop.
And to have it
Hush.
And to have him reporting that U.S. officials are telling him that they're nervous that the Russian overtures of peace will be accepted by Ukraine, and that their European allies will put pressure on Ukraine to get to a peace deal, that's what the U.S. is nervous about, shows that there are some serious maniacs that are involved in this.
But to be clear, I have no idea whether government officials are actually saying that. I don't trust the media to report that accurately. If there's one element of our political sector more hawkish than the State Department, it's actually just the mainstream media. They would tell you that our State Department doesn't want peace because it's bad and we should actually, overthrow Putin and have World War III. They would tell you that regardless of what they were hearing. Maybe not, but you get the sense that they would.
Right, and within every country...
They would spin it in a way that sounds like that.
Yes, for sure. And within every country, you have factions. The palace intrigue, the royal courts, the Kremlinology. And in the U.S., you've got some factions that are pushing for a quick end to this, and you've got some factions that would love to see this evolve into some greater conflict or really some giant clash. And the question is always who's in those factions?
In the Trump administration, the question was who had talked to Trump last.
Yes, was it Bolton or was it somebody else? Right. And so we're trying to sort these out. And so all we can really tell from that one shooter article is at least one person, somewhere in the government, feels this way.
Right.
But then because the media is so
might have said a bunch of other things that were supportive of a peace between Russia and Ukraine, and then said, my one worry is this, and then that's it. That's the quote. Right. The contextualizing, the ability to ignore things you hear that are contrary. You can always, it's in the media, it's so easy to construct whatever narrative you want. Mm-hmm. You can, because you can choose who you're talking to support that narrative. You can ignore, you can selectively quote, you can do all sorts of things to build whatever story you want to build.
In fact, the Blinken shot that we played at the top there is a good example of it. It's about a 2-minute answer that he gave, and the piece that I played is the piece that made the most amount of news globally. That we haven't seen any evidence that. But what he says before and after that is, if they're doing this, great, and we're willing to support Ukraine in whatever way we can, to get to a peace deal. Like saying the right things, like good things, if you want this war to end, and then he throws on. But we don't see any evidence that Russia is remotely serious about this. But he's a diplomat. He knows that everybody ignores everything before the but.
Yeah.
So he says, you say all the right things, and then you say but. And then that's when the reporter's like, oh, the but. Okay, here we've got our headline coming. And he gave them the headline.
Yeah.
But so let's go to the first part of that, supporting Ukraine to get toward a peaceful resolution of this.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do it right now.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. All right, looking forward to what's on your radar up next.